Hi, this is Ian Wright, and welcome to Finding Your Health Potency, which is my brand new course, which is really, it's a course in self-healing, a really, hopefully powerful course in self-healing. And so I'm going to just spend the next few minutes, 20 minutes or so, discussing where it came from, discussing what it's all about, the threads that are in it, and then I'll go through the chapters. There's 47 chapters in this. And where does it come from? That's the thing. Where does it come from, and why are we doing this course? So, first of all, who am I? I'm an osteopath by trade. I've been teaching for nearly 30, just coming up 30 years internationally, all over, teaching cranial pediatrics, really all over. Right now, I'm involved in some pediatrics projects in Brazil, London, Ireland, Italy, etc. I've also been teaching for a long time, 15 plus years, sort of meditation, sensory, developing senses, really, techniques and courses, re-engaging with nature through opening up our senses and reconnecting with our own kind of health, actually, which is these threads have always come through. And separate to that, I've spent a lot of time as a student of Taoist, Buddhist, indigenous tribes, some of their methods and lived with some 25 plus years ago for some time. So a lot of different threads that have kind of come together. And then more recently, 5 so years ago, I started to write the book, The Dynamics of Stillness, which is based on some of these sensory development meditational techniques, which I've developed. And then from that, started to work a lot with anxiety, and then came up with the Anxiety Breaks, which is it's a kind of course on my online courses. I was going to do it as a book, and actually I decided to bring it as an online course because people need to be talked through process and practices. It seems to work better for people to have me talking you through each step, and I do all these meditations and podcasts, etc., etc. So that's where I come from. And so why do a course in self-healing? This is really, I think, at this time for all of us, that this is a time in sort of to engage in a process of self-empowerment, to really try to actually, there's a lot of patients who I work with have chronic difficult conditions, and they constantly ask for techniques and processes. What can I do at home? What can I do? And often we don't have time to explain. There's so many processes and techniques that can be really helpful. I wanted to pull a lot of it all together so people can have a process by which they can engage really with this potency for health, which lies within everybody. And so that's where I came from starting this. And it started out as a shorter course, and it's ended up as 47 chapters. And they all each chapter has a technique, a meditation, a process, a practice, which I think they build on each other, and they're very different to anything that I've done before. This is very new. So what does it mean to be healthy? What does health mean? And this is the kind of starting point. Our health is a perceptional feeling. It doesn't matter what our labels are, what illness we have, whether we have anxiety, depression, or we're in chronic pain. It's how our perception is of how we feel in the moment, which is really key. So the process I goes through finding some sort of peace, actually, where we are, even if we have a very severe chronic illness, or we're suffering some anxiety, or we're in chronic complex pain, all of that, it's about finding peace and accessing our deepest potential for health, whatever the situation we're in. So these are genuinely new techniques and practices. Some have threads from other things, sort of like mindfulness and other kind of areas, but mostly brand new kind of techniques. But they come from teachings from thousands of years old, the old some of it comes from threads through the old Taoist wizards or the Buddhist masters, or some through indigenous tribes, into techniques which are more for the future, which are about engaging with a quantum field, with really focusing on cellular healing, even in some techniques down to the level of DNA. So the purpose of it is to find some relief, find some peace, engage and heal, try and heal, engage with our potential for health. But there's also positive side effects like emotional health, increased self-awareness, increased empathy, but in a good way. Attention, strength of our attention, because our attention tends to wander very quickly, but these exercises strengthen our attention and our ability also to meditate. They help with our memory as well, strengthen our memory. Absolutely vital. Pain regulation. Also, a fundamental part of the process is de-stressing, unraveling the stressing, regulating that hypothalamic pituitary axis, which gets itself into a pickle with life, and consequently, hopefully bringing relief for both anxiety and depressive states. So there are threads that go through, and these threads are familiar threads. Number one, it's finding a degree of neutrality in ourselves, finding a place of neutral so we can take our nervous systems out of gear. Then working with processing emotions, allowing emotions to be processed, to really allow, accept, and come to a place of observing our emotions. Then we shift our attention through from what feels distressed, what feels wrong in us, to a potential aliveness in our tissues, which shifts our attentional field, hugely important. And then other threads are engaging with light, potency, and ignition, from a cellular level to our organs. At the same time, looking at stillness, both the potential for it inside us and in the whole outside us. And then through that motion from stillness, the great tides that connect us to ourselves and nature. And another thread is meeting the perfect blueprint, our perfect blueprint for health, and allowing that to unfold. And through those, engaging with processes of wholeness and oneness, which are underlying threads to the whole thing and underlying potential for our absolute perfect health. So I'm just going to whip through these 47 chapters. There's a lot here, but just to give you a little bit of a clue to what's actually involved with this, because it's a lot. So we start with looking, in the first chapter, looking at why we're unwell, really looking at our perceptions and whatever is going on, be it severe illness or a minor just feeling not quite right. We can find some sort of degree of peace in it, some acknowledging of perception. So that's the starting point. Then we deal with the classics of thoughts, feelings, emotions, kind of mindful practice. Then we look in detail, because part of the threads of this are understanding our body. That's what I like to do, is get you to understand what's happening in your body so that you can overcome it by knowledge, and we can actually give ourselves the strength to change these physiological states in us. So we look at stress and distress and engage with different types of breathing to regulate our HPA axis. From there, we look at finding a place of neutral, allowing ourselves to come to a point of rest, a point of ease, which is the starting point for all health. Through that, we look at fulcrums and refining our midline. We put our energy in a million different places. And in order to heal, we have to come in and really focusing. So at the same time, we're developing this feeling sense, really. And this felt sense is what we're going to use to engage with our health. Then we're going to look at the idea of healing in the present moment, being fully present in the moment. And we have to be here in terms of space to heal, but we also have to be here in terms of time to engage with a potential healing in us. And then we start to look at certain breathing techniques which are around healing breath. Then we have to look at our beliefs and triggers for our distress, and working with these triggers, which is a key point, especially in anxiety states, and also how we deal with being unwell and how we can move out of that. And then we start to look at the threads of actually meeting our potential health. So here we're going to look at meeting our fluid body, our potential embryo, the perfect part of ourselves. And the next chapter is about cellular renewal, really engaging on a cellular level. And then we start to connect with oneness, breathing oneness, this great breath that we can breathe that connects us. We build up on that idea of true rest, finding rest, sleep, and the importance of sleep, and how we can do practices that help us sleep better. Then we come back to working with these emotions, these key emotions in depth, and we start with anger. And then we start with the process of fear and turning fear into trust. And then we go through grief, working with grief and that natural process of grief and allowing it to unfold and transmutate in us. Very important. Then we look at trying to change patterns, stepping into an unknown, a different way of being, which is a huge challenge at the beginning. But if we get to that, it can be this point we jump off towards our health. Then I do some work around pain and our perception of pain and finding peace in pain and techniques to deal with chronic, difficult pain. The next chapter is about becoming heart-centered being, the idea of cardiac coherence and the way that can retrain our brain through the vagal nerve. We come back to breath and light, breathing in light, letting in the light. We don't let in the light when we're heading towards not being well. And it's about turning that around, really important. Then we build on that idea of being neutral, this idea of equanimity whenever we're in a crisis. The next chapter is about grounding and deeply earthing. And after that, we look at retraining our consciousness and our attention towards meeting our potential health and that potency. Then we start to look at specifics, organ cleanses, hormonal harmony. And I do a chapter on vision and eye practices, which use a different techniques to balance and support our eye function, which I think is rather nice. Then we go to the bones, the real marrow of it, and meeting the real stillness in our bones, which is a lovely series of techniques. Then we look at refining the lens, really going into the micro on a cellular level, down to the DNA, and engaging with the potential health in it, and that's really precise stuff. We look at, after that, the idea of dark nights of the soul, the real dark place where we lose sense of the light, where we have to move on through trust in the darkness. And often life brings those moments, that dark night moment where you've lost all the sense of light, and in that is the seed of your transformation and the importance of discussing that. And there's a seed meditation I go through with that. Then I look at the idea of protecting ourselves. I work with a lot, obviously, with practitioners, and this idea of having to protect ourselves from other people's energy fields. And I kind of changed that and look at that in a very different way, and do a meditation practice called the Golden Egg, which is very lovely. Then we have to look at our relational fields, how we relate with friends, family, loved ones, people around us, in our work, etc., and how to bring harmony and coherence to those relational fields, because those fields profoundly affect us all the time. And becoming conscious and realigning those fields in a positive way, very powerful. Then we start to look at stillness, the great natural peace, and how that can actually reset us on a cellular level. And the tide from the stillness, that slow tide that breathes us and connects us to ourselves and to nature. Then we do a little bit of work with the brain. We start to work a bit with the brainwave coherence and healing in that. And then we look at our light body and ignition and how we need, on a cellular level, this light being let in and how to do that for ourselves, this engaging with this potency. Then I do a little bit of work on emotional stuff, like really healthy honesty, actually really being honest with yourself, your relationships with yourself and others, and taking an honest viewpoint in life. And I think these are really important. We can't just heal ourselves. We have to heal ourselves within our relationship to life. And I think that's very key. Then we go through some nice Buddhist loving kindness. And I bring that in with forgiveness practices as the two key threads. Loving kindness and forgiveness. And they're lovely techniques together, actually, I think. Then we start to engage with this wholeness, this whole unified field, and engage with coming into this quantum unified field, into the stillness, the dynamic stillness of that, and allowing creativity to flow from that. Very powerful techniques on that. And then we come back to an emotional thing, like engaging with the energetic fields of joy and bliss to regulate our nervous systems. And here we're starting to go into more feeling wholeness, really engaging with our health on a cellular level, and then on a universal level, with that universal energy of trust and how the energy of that can be healing. And then we start really engaging with this full quantum field potential, this cosmic healing, if you like. And really in that, meeting our perfect blueprint for health, realigning ourselves to this unified field and allowing us to download this new reality for ourselves and stepping into our potential health, this perfect blueprint for health. And from there we go to this area of wholeness meeting oneness, this dynamic stillness. And from there, living on the tide, living on this unfolding wholeness and this perfect potential health within each moment. So these are the threads that we go through in all of these practices. And from it, what do we develop? We develop a practice, a daily practice that we can restore us, can meet us, help us to really meet our health potency. Also to find a little peace around whatever situation we're in, be it severe chronic illness to just not feeling right. It doesn't matter. Or even if you feel right, we all need some kind of self-healing. So you can see the threads that I'm uncovering, and there is an underlying process within the whole thing. And it's an embodiment of a lot of different things. And it will take quite a while to go through all those processes. I'd say it would take 2 or 3 months to go through all of it. Actually, you might want to hear it all through once and go through the techniques, and then pick your favorite techniques, which really you can incorporate into a daily practice, which hopefully brings you joy and a bit of peace and restores your potential for health and healing in yourself and empowers you to take a hold of that, no matter what situation you're in. Take a hold of your potential so that you can be in peace and express as much as you can your wholeness within each moment. And that's the process for me. I hope you enjoy this. I really think these techniques are absolutely wonderful, and I think they really will allow you to unfold your potential health in the moment. The course is just being put together, the final bits. I would say it should be out. Watch this space. It'll be on the dynamicsofstillness.com, and through this Facebook, we'll put it up when it's ready to go. It should come out, I would say, in about 4 or 5 days, hopefully. And I think we'll put a special price on it for before Christmas. We'll take a percentage off for as a kind of introductory thing. And I hope you enjoy it. And I really wish you peace, and I wish you health.